Are you thinking about using some eBay up and forward turbo headers for your LS swap project? Well, in this video, I'm going to go over some of the shortcomings that I found with mine, show you how I worked around them, and put some of the myths and rumors about these headers to bed, so stick around. Alright guys, let's just start off clearing up something for all the actually guys. These are not eBay branded headers. These are unbranded headers that were purchased on eBay. So if you're one of those little ball huggers that like to go on every video somebody does of eBay products and say, eBay's not a brand. Yeah, we know that, dude. Anyway, I did purchase these on eBay. Although they are not eBay branded, they are unbranded. They're pretty much the same headers that you're going to buy from anybody on eBay if you type in up and over turbo headers for LS engines. So I actually tried to test that theory. I was hoping maybe there were some different varieties out there. So I actually ordered these because the picture showed things a lot different than how they actually are, but what I got was the same, you know, janky header that everybody on eBay sells. So I just want to go over these for some people who might be thinking about using them as well, and just kind of show you the deficiencies that I found, the things you're going to have to modify, and how I went about modifying to make these fit. If you want to know why I chose to use these headers on this build, I've already explained that in a previous video in the Chaos Theory Camaro playlist, so you can go back and watch that instead of asking me, why didn't you just do this or why didn't you just do that? So here we go, guys. To get started, the welds, the picture that was shown on the auction that I purchased these from, it showed these primary tubes being welded all the way around on the outside here. Obviously these are not. You can see there's just a stitch weld here, and then that's pretty much it, guys. They are welded all the way around on the inside though, so I don't think leaking is going to be a huge issue. One good thing about these, they do have a really thick flange, and I mean, you know, it's a lot more substantial than a lot of the headers I buy. So the overall quality, materials-wise, seems pretty good. These are stainless steel headers. I'm going to go over some of the other issues here. The flanges on both my headers were welded on crooked. Initially, I thought that maybe they did that to, you know, try to make the turbo, if you use a turbo with it, you know, sit at a specific angle. But after looking at them, it's pretty random, guys. They did not slide the V-band on all the way, and one of them, I think the passenger side, the V-band actually is cocked in just a hair, and on this, which would be the driver's side, this V-band is actually cocked out and slightly down, just a hair. It's not a big deal, but there are two varieties of these that I see on eBay. You see these, you know, with this longer collector here, and then you see some that have a shorter collector where the V-band is up here. I did choose the one with the longer collector, number one, because for some reason it's about $40 cheaper no matter what seller you buy it from than the shorter collector headers. Number two, I figured if it was long enough, that's great. You know, if it was too short, if I would have bought the short ones and it would have been too short, I would have had to add pipe to it. If these are too long, I don't have to add pipe. I can just, you know, cut a section of pipe out and, you know, bring the V-band back and re-weld it. Let's talk a little bit about fitment. Another issue I had with these, other than the crooked V-band flanges, were the holes on the flange here to mount it to the cylinder head. They were not in the correct position. So what ended up happening is I could get all the bolts in except for the very last two, and that was for both sides. The bolt holes on these last two flanges here, they were actually off by like 1/8 of an inch. Now initially what I did is I got out a carbide bit and I started grinding on this, and I was like, man, these thick flanges, I'm going to be here for hours. So then it kind of hit me. I was like, well, instead of just grinding these 2 holes out, let's just, you know, make all the holes bigger. So what I did is I got a step bit and I took all these holes up to a 1/2 inch hole. Once I'd done that, it allowed the whole header to slide forward a little bit, and, you know, it all fit on there. As far as, you know, any variances in port alignment or anything caused by that, it's not an issue, guys. These primary tubes are so huge. I think they might be 1 7/8 inches. I'm not sure. But they're so large that even, you know, though I shifted the header probably 1/8 of an inch forward, the actual exhaust ports on the head are much smaller than these holes. So even if it off-centered it a little bit, you know, it's still going to be blowing right into the primary tubes there. Now these headers did come with the other side of your V-band flange there and V-band clamp. It came with 2 of those. It also came with bolts. These bolts do not fit LS cylinder heads. I believe these are probably like, I don't know, 3/8 bolts. Probably meant for a small block Chevy head. So the bolts are useless unless you want to use them on your small block Chevy. But I use head studs, or not head studs, but exhaust studs anyway, so it doesn't matter. Just know that you are not going to be able to use the bolts that come with these headers. Now over here on the car, we're going to go over a few problems I had and how I solved them. These problems are specific to the car that I'm swapping, which if you haven't been following the Chaos Theory playlist, you know, it's 3rd gen Camaro, obviously. So over here on the passenger side, as far as actually putting the header on, fitment and everything, I had plenty of room. I mean, I can reach all under here. There's gobs of room. The problem that I am going to have, and I'm going to address that just a little while later in the video, is spark plug wires. Now, over here on the driver's side, I had a couple more things to deal with, and these are things that you may have to deal with no matter what you're putting these on. The first thing I had to deal with was my brake lines. All of my brake lines were originally over here. There was no way I was getting that header in, so all I did was I kind of bent all the brake lines over. I pushed them over as close as I could get them to the steering here without actually rubbing, but that gave me plenty of clearance, and I was then able to slide the header right on. You can see I've got clearance all the way around. I can actually get my hand between the header and my proportion valve there. There's a lot more room, a lot more clearance for the lines now, but I am going to either A, wrap the headers, that's probably what I'm going to do, or B, I'm going to make some kind of heat shield to kind of hold the heat off of my master cylinder and my proportion valve there. But when all was said and done, that went right on. Now, I want to cover something that it gets brought up a lot when people are asking about these up and forward eBay headers, and that's whether or not the truck accessory drive will work on here with these headers. A lot of people say that these headers will actually hit the bracket for your alternator and that you can't use them with the truck accessories. I personally am not going to be using the truck accessories on this build. I'm going to be doing a low mount alternator only setup with no power steering. But I want to check this out for you guys who may be just kind of investigating these headers, thinking about getting them, and we'll clear this up once and for all. And there you go, guys. There's your truck alternator bracket, and you can see I can actually get my hand in between here. I mean, you got plenty of room there. This just goes back to what I always tell you. Don't believe everything you read on the internet, guys. 90% of the people on the internet are just regurgitating things they've heard. Don't believe it unless you see it with your own eyes. The only issue you would have with this setup, with these headers, is the cap for the power steering fluid. I was able to work with it and get it out. It was a pain in the butt. That's with the long tube ones. Now I will say this, if you buy the shorty, you know, the ones that have shorter collectors on them, then even then your power steering cap there, it would be, you know, it wouldn't be a problem at all. You may actually have to unhook whatever you have V-banded to it here and just move it out of the way to add power steering fluid, but hopefully you don't have to add power steering fluid that often. If you do, you probably need to fix that. So final consensus is yes, the up and over headers do work with a truck bracket, truck accessory bracket. So if anybody says otherwise, They probably just don't know, they haven't done it before, and like I said, they're just regurgitating stuff they saw on the internet. The only reason I'm making such a big deal about that is because I must have read at least 10 people this week alone on various group pages that are going around saying you can't use those up and forward headers with the truck accessory bracket. It hits the alternator, or it hits the alternator bracket. Like I said, guys, there's plenty of room, ton of room. There's at least 2.5 inches there. So moving right along, spark plug wires. This is the area where I'm gonna have to get kind of creative, and you will too. I tried 3 different spark plug wires with these guys. I tried a stock style spark plug wire. I tried a Taylor Street Thunder spark plug wire. And I even tried my trusty, tried and true Taylor race wires with the 135-degree boot. None of these are going to fit, guys. Here's the issue you're going to run into. No matter what wire you use, they are going to be smashed against these header tubes hard, okay? Now, I know a lot of you are probably like, hey, just put heat boots on them. That's not what heat boots are for. We're gonna go ahead and dispel another myth right now. Guys, the heat boots are to shield from heat. They're not for direct contact heat. So if you have a spark plug wire that's just really close to a header tube, but it's not touching it, you can buy some of those spark plug wire socks and it'll be fine, all right? Even if it is just barely touching it, I mean just barely touching it, those header boots will usually save you for a while, okay? But if you have a wire that's doing what these are doing, and it's just like, you got 3 inches of wire smashed up against the primary tube like that, there's a lot of force on it. Those header boot or those spark plug boots are not going to save you. They may hold up for a little while, but eventually they're going to transfer the heat through where all that force is on the wire. It's going to transfer the heat through. It's going to melt your wires. Get online, research it. There are tons of pictures of guys melting wires through header boots. Yes, even the good ones from DEI, tongue twister. Even the good ones, they burn right through. That's not their purpose. People try to use them for this purpose, but that is not their purpose. Now, since I do plan on wrapping my headers, if I wanted to try to put one of those socks on the wires as well, that'd be kind of like a double layer of insulation, because at that point, the sock isn't touching the actual metal tube, it's touching the other layer of insulation. That may work, but I'm thinking eventually even that would burn through. So what I've decided to do is just relocate my coils. The trick is I want to relocate them in such a way that I can still use stock length spark plug wires. So I know a lot of people like to mount them on the firewall back here, and then they'll make custom spark plug wires. That may be something I end up doing in the future. I don't know, but for now what I've come up with is I'm going to take the coil pack bracket, just the whole bracket, off of the valve cover, and my current plan, I don't know if you can see that, is to just mount it on the frame rail down here and then just run the wires from the coil over to each plug. Now I'm not sure if I'm going to stay with that idea or not, but I mean that's all I got for now. I really don't have room on the firewall since I am running a heater. I don't have room on the firewall to mount them up here unless I wanted to make some bracket to come off the top here and maybe hold them and then make custom wires to go under. I really hadn't got that far yet, guys. I think I'm going to stick with this plan for now and see what happens. I may change my mind later on. Well, it better not be too much later on, because I'm hoping to fire this thing up within the next week, so I need to get something worked out. The point is, you're going to have to either chance burning spark plug wires, or you're going to have to relocate your coils somewhere. Your application may have more room than mine as far as being able to mount them on the firewall or on the frame or whatever. Now that I've actually set a row of coil packs down here, I can see there's not really a whole lot of room down here. So I may end up having to make custom spark plug wires, guys. And either like I just said, make a bracket that extends off and kind of holds them here and then run the wires down, And I could do the same on the other side, kind of above the brake booster over there. Or the other plan is, you know, I could mount them up here somewhere and run the wires back. Or I could even mount them right here. I mean, you know, there's a lot of options here, guys, but I think you get the picture. I'm trying to figure out a way to move them off the valve covers. And if you're running these headers, you probably will need to do that as well. The other option is, like I said a few minutes ago, I could just wrap the headers and use boots on the wires and, you know, let them touch the headers, since there'll be a double layer of insulation there. But I don't know, you guys tell me what you think. Do you think I should just wrap everything and see what happens, chance it, or do you think I should go ahead and try to come up with a plan to move the coils somewhere? One last issue that you are going to have with these, in case in case you're wanting to keep things symmetrical, know that due to the offset head design on LS engines, these are both the same length, both of these headers. So one of them is actually going to stick out. You can probably tell in the picture. That one over there is actually sticking out about an inch, maybe a ½ inch further than this one. So if you're worried about being symmetrical, like if you want to hang a turbo straight off of each one of them and you want it to look symmetrical, you are going to have to trim one header back to deal with the offset head issue and, you know, the offset ports on the LS cylinder heads and the LS block. So keep that in mind. You know, you're going to want to take the longer flange, move it back. I think it's a ½ or 3/4 of an inch, and then they should be perfectly straight with each other. And I'll go ahead and say too, that one sticks out a little past it, but this one is pretty much right even with the end of the crank pulley on the, with a truck crank. Well, it's not actually. I think that one is even with the end of the truck pulley. This one is set back about the width of the belt. So if you're worried about how far up these actually come past the heads, you can kind of see that. Over here on the driver's side, it comes out to about a little less than 5½ inches past the head. And then over here on this side, okay, well, it actually sticks out more than I thought. Well, this one comes out to about 8 inches past the head. But keep in mind, this cylinder head is offset back, and you know, that takes up a little bit of the slack there. It takes up 1.5 inches or so because it's offset back. And then the reason it sticks out further than that side, even though the head is offset back on the block, is because, you know, the ports are offset on the head. So that moves this. I hope that makes sense. But I know I saw a video a while back where a guy was showing measurements for these, and that's the one thing he didn't really show, is exactly how far these stuck out. And then you look between the valve cover and the side of it, you got about maybe 1 3/4 inches, and that should be, yeah, it's the same way on both sides, about 1 3/4 inches from the valve cover to the actual turbo manifold there. So one of the other questions I see asked about these headers all the time is, how hard is it to change your spark plugs? Well, I'm going to show you here in just a second, because I've got my NGK BR7 EFs here. I'm going to gap these up real quick, and we're going to throw them all in the passenger side. I have to do some work on the driver's side. I'm not even going to lie to you, though. I mean, it's going to be a little more difficult on the driver's side just because of the brake lines. But I've got some other stuff I need to do over there on that side before I go final assembly crazy over there. So let me gap 4 of these and get them stuck in there, and I'll let you guys kind of watch and see exactly how difficult it is to put these in. I will make the note before I start, if you have access to the underside of the car, which I'm not going to do because that's cheating, but if you have access to the underside of the car, it would be a cakewalk putting these in, because I mean, there's nothing there. All the header tubes come up and over, so the spark plugs are pretty much down there all by themselves. So get these gapped real quick. So you guys that always ask me what spark plugs I run with nitrous, like I just showed you, it's the NGK BR7 EFs. It's a non-protruded tip plug, which means the tip doesn't come out. You know, back in the old days, I used to run TR6s, which I didn't know any better. But I mean, yeah, they work up to a certain point, but you're going to risk hot spots if you run them with higher levels. So I say just skip the TR6s, go straight to the BR7s. You never have to worry about it. And for nitrous, I usually start off with a 30 for my gap. Turbo, I would start down closer to, you know, 18, 20, something like that. But I start at 30. If I think I'm getting spark blowout or anything, then I might close the gap up a little bit. But that's where I start. Got my 30 gap on. Let's go over here and sling these in. Make sure you dab some anti-seize on there. And when I say dab, I do mean dab. It doesn't take much, guys. Just throw a little bit down there at the bottom threads, and it'll smear around the threads as you're screwing them in. There we go. I didn't think I was going to get that one in. Not because of the headers, just because, well, it just didn't want to go in. Didn't want to start. Now I'll say this, guys, well, it might have something to do with where I wallowed the holes out. The top of the spark plug is really close to the header flange. So, just something to note. That one's in. Grab another one. A little dab of anti-seize. Set a dab of anti-seize. Up here. This guy in. I swear, guys, I don't know why I cannot get the angle right on these damn spark plugs today. There we go. Robert's having issues. I'm gonna be right up front with you guys. I have messed something up in my neck and shoulder again, and I'm pretty heavily medicated at the moment. So that might have something to do with why I'm having such a hard time here. It's also why I didn't get a whole lot done on this car this weekend. I've been in bed doped up most of the time. Should probably cheat and use my Milwaukee power ratchet. Two. We'll move up to the ones that are probably going to be a little more difficult to get to. Yeah, this middle one. And again, like I said, guys, if you do this from, this is my bad shoulder too. If you do this from underneath, it's way easier because you can see the holes. There's no header. Damn it, I had that going and I pulled it right back out. You can see the holes. The headers, the header tubes are not going to be in the way if you're putting them on from down below because they go up and over. The only reason I'm doing this right now is just so nobody says, yeah, but they're a nightmare to change. That's why he did a cut, edited the video so you couldn't see them. Yeah, that's the only reason I'm doing this right now. I know it's probably boring you guys to death. I want to make sure everybody can see exactly how long it took, even with me fumbling around. So nobody can say, oh, he didn't show us the real story. He edited that. Because he's always doing those jump cuts. I'm usually doing jump cuts because I know I'm boring enough. Get your attention. Get some people going. Use a little extension oil. Need that extension oil. Probably should have got a wobbly. One of the little wobbly guys. I think I'm gonna get my little wobbly guy. I can't find my little wobbly guy. There he is. Couldn't find my little wobbly guy. Thought he jumped ship on me. Come here, wobbly guy. Long dry. That's the problem with using an extension. You can't feel anything. You guys understood that joke, and I feel sorry for you. Alright. There's 3. Let's get the last one in. No jump cuts, no editing. I think you guys get the point already. Well, this one's going to be the one where we got to do the Bendy McBenderson arm with my bad shoulder. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Oh, that's where you go, right there. Yep, there we go. Yeah, I'm not kidding, guys. I'm high as a kite right now. On them prescription pain medications and muscle relaxers. And I'm out here making a video for you guys. Alright. Snug him up. Snuggy snug. That's it, guys. How long did that take? About 8 minutes to do this side. Like I said, the other side's going to be a little more rough just because there's some brake lines in the way, but I probably will do it from underneath because if you go under the car, you can literally look right up at the holes. As I was in here editing the video, I almost forgot one last very important detail. Your dipstick tube. Here's what's up with that. If you are using a truck dipstick, I believe these headers were designed around the truck dipstick tube. If you're using a truck dipstick tube, it fits right in there. You're not going to have any problem with these headers. Now, because of the oil pan we're using, I had to use an LS3 dipstick tube. The LS3 dipstick tube will not go in here, you know, straight from the factory. What I'm going to end up having to do is take a tubing bender, and I'm going to have to, well, I'm holding this camera, but I'm going to have to bend the tube out a little and then back around to clear this second primary tube right here. So make a note of that, guys. If you're using a truck dipstick tube, it works just fine. I just shoved it in there. It works. Not just regurgitating shit. But if you're using a LS3 dipstick tube like is required for the Holly pan or the TSP pan that I did the video on, etc., you are going to have to do some bendy with it to get it to work with these headers. So that's it, guys. So if you're looking into getting some of these El Cheapo headers to do you a twin turbo setup, or in my case, as I mentioned in other videos, for now I'm just going to run the exhaust out and down and under the fender on each side while I'm on nitrous, and then when I go back to do the turbos, the twin turbo setup, we'll just, you know, we'll hang us probably a GT 3582 or something like that on each side. But yeah, that's it, guys. That was the whole purpose of this video. just to show you how these headers fit, the issues I had with them, how I solved it, the issues that people who don't know shit tell you you're gonna have with them because they've never tried them, and that's pretty much it. So I'm gonna go back in here. Actually, I'm not gonna go back in here. I'm gonna fiddle with this a little while longer, see what I can do about transmission lines, because I do want to fire this thing up next weekend. You should probably get out in the garage and get something done, and I'll see you next time here on Bad Luck Garage.